Chapter 1505. Lin Yan studied Lin Nua. Although she was alive and well, she didn't feel real. She had been looking for her brother for so many years, yet he had appeared before her. When Xing Chun and the others saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. The legendary and mysterious president of the Hunters Guild was actually Lin Yan's brother. And he was still standing there obediently to pinch Lin Yan's face? Xing Chun glanced at the guardian, who seemed to be losing his patience. He couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, Lin Nua had appeared in time. However, he was afraid that it wouldn't be that easy to send this old man away. Haha. The messenger chuckled softly and glanced at Lin Nua. President Lin, the Sacred Land and the Hunters Guild have always had the same philosophy and a good relationship. It was indeed presumptuous of us not to inform you this time. But the situation is urgent. I believe that President Lin can understand. Lin Nua patted Lin Yan's hand gently and gave her a reassuring look. Then, he turned to the Guardian and said, "Guardian, the evolved beings here have always been under the jurisdiction of the Hunters Guild. There has never been any mistake. Now that the Sacred Land has interfered, isn't it a little impolite?" The protector of the Sacred Land was speechless. Just as Lin Nua had said, the evolved beings here were indeed under the management of the Hunters Guild. Logically speaking, the Sacred Land shouldn't interfere. The Hunters Guild was different from other evolved beings. Its scale far exceeded that of the Sacred Land, and it was responsible for capturing evolved beings who violated the rules. All these years, the Sacred Land had rarely appeared. The balance of the outside world had been maintained by the Hunters Guild, which had saved the Sacred Land a lot of trouble. Under normal circumstances, the Sacred Land wouldn't randomly capture evolved beings under the jurisdiction of the Hunters Guild. However, the situation was different this time. Guardian, the Hunters Guild and the Sacred Land have reached an agreement all these years. However, you came here without informing the Hunters Guild, and even captured evolved beings under the jurisdiction of the Hunters Guild. Don't you need to give the Hunters Guild an explanation? Asked Lin Nua. Xing Chun and the others heaved a sigh of relief. He understood the conversation between Lin Nua and the Guardian. The relationship between the Sacred Land and the Hunters Guild was like that of an ally. They were equivalent to two official factions. The Holy Land was responsible for maintaining the balance between the evolved world and the ordinary world, while the Hunters Guild was responsible for watching over and capturing evolved humans who broke the rules. The two forces must have had some kind of agreement. The Holy Land could not interfere with the Hunters Guild's jurisdiction, and it was the same for the Hunters Guild. However, this time, the Holy Land had entered without informing the Hunters Guild, and was even capturing evolved humans. This was equivalent to slapping the Hunters Guild in the face. Of course, in terms of strength, the Hunters Guild naturally could not compare to the Holy Land. However, in terms of scale, the Hunters Guild was undoubtedly the #1 official force. One might not be able to see the forces of the Holy Land in any country or region in the world, but one would definitely be able to see the Hunters Guild. It could be said that they were everywhere. President Lin, there's no need to be so angry. I think you've misunderstood. The Holy Land protector smiled and said, "The Holy Land is here mainly because a disciple made a mistake, so it has nothing to do with the Hunters Guild." End of chapter. Chapter 1506. Hearing this, Xing Chun and the others were surprised and secretly cursed this protector for being shameless. According to what he said, it wouldn't be appropriate for the Hunters Guild to interfere. This was the Holy Land's family matter. Even if the Holy Land and the Hunters Guild had an agreement, the Hunters Guild couldn't interfere with the Holy Land's family matters. This was also a rule. As expected, after the Holy Land protector finished speaking, Lin Nua became silent. Lin Yin had indeed been a disciple of the Sacred Land. There was no way to refute that. As long as they didn't fall out, he could protect Muyu. But he couldn't save Lin Yin. Who's the disciple of the Holy Land? It's you. Lin Yin glanced at Muyu in confusion. Muyu sneered. Since when am I a disciple of the Saint Land? Lin Yin nodded and glanced at the white crane. Is that you? Huh. Why, he was confused. Then am I, or am I not? There are no disciples here. Are you sure? Lin Yin glanced at the guardian. Mu Yin, you don't have to do that. You are a disciple of the Holy Land. The protector of the Holy Land said. I'm a disciple of the sacred land? Lin Yin was astonished. You said that Mu Yin is a disciple of the sacred land. What does that have to do with me? That's right. There are no Holy Land disciples here. What right do you have to come to the Hunters Guild's territory to capture evolved people? Xingchen mustered up his courage and said, Guardian, she is my sister Lin Yin. She has nothing to do with the Mu Yin you mentioned, replied Lin Nua. The Holy Land Protector sighed helplessly and said, President Lin, you're the president of the Hunters Guild after all. Why are you spouting nonsense like them? If that's the case, then there's no point. It's indeed boring, Lin Nua said. I've already said it. In order to show my respect to the Hunters Guild, I will only take Mu Yin with me today. If President Lin insists on interfering with the matters of the Holy Lands, then don't blame me for not following the rules. I will take both of these sisters with me. Lin Nua said coldly. You won't be able to take any of them away. Sigh. The protector of the Holy Land sighed. All right, I understand President Lin's stance. As for whether or not I can take him away, I'll let my strength speak for itself. The protector of the sacred ground moved like a ghost and appeared beside Lin Yin and Mu Yu. He reached out to grab them. His goal was not to clash with the Hunters Guild. There was no need to complicate matters. He only needed to take Mu Yin and Mu Yu away. Lin Nua didn't waste any time. He dashed to Lin Yan's side, and an immense evolutionary aura surged from Lin Nua's body. It was as though an ancient beast had awakened and attacked the guardian of the sacred ground. In the blink of an eye, Lin Nua and the Holy Land's protector were locked in battle. A fight between immortals. Xingchen raised his head and looked around. The speed of the Holy Land protector and Lin Nua was simply too fast. Xingchen and the rest could no longer see them clearly with the naked eye. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion. Pei Li was the first to break free. A small gift. Lin Yin had wanted to ask Pei Li to pull her over, but Pei Li had rushed into the fray. Mom, are you alright? Damn it, how dare you hurt my mom? Watch how I kill you. Before Lin Yin could snap out of her daze, Pei Qian regained his freedom and charged into the battlefield with Pei Li. This? Lin Yin stared at Pei Qian and Pei Li in shock. Was this a human? You can use me as a shield. He can't do anything to me, Pei Li said to Lin Nua. Lin Nua was speechless. I don't think that's a good idea. Lin Nua felt a little awkward. No matter what, he couldn't use a child as a shield. Besides, this was his sister's child, his nephew. End of this chapter. Chapter 1507. These two children are also evolved beings? Lin Yin was shocked. Sister Yin, this. Xingchen glanced at Lin Yin, not knowing how to explain. Xiao Yao didn't tell me anything. Lin Yin frowned. Xingchen was speechless. Ling Yu was speechless. Lin Yin had never imagined that Pei Qian and Pei Li would be evolved beings. Besides, they weren't ordinary evolved beings. This was too impressive. In Lin Yan's heart, the two children had always been obedient and adorable. They couldn't be compared to powerful evolved beings. Initially, Lin Yin had thought that she would protect the two children no matter what. But from the looks of it now, it seemed like she was thinking too much about who was protecting who. Before Lin Yin could continue pondering, she heard a thunderous explosion. Pei Qian, Pei Li, and Lin Nua were sent flying like kites with their strings cut. Besides Pei Li, who seemed unscathed, Lin Nua and Pei Li didn't look too good. How is that possible? Pei Qian stared at the guardian in disbelief. The guardian was much stronger than when he had fought with him earlier. It was as though he was a completely different person. He had already been terrifyingly strong before, but now, he was ridiculously strong. You didn't use your full strength earlier? Pei Qian glanced at the guardian in surprise. Hearing that, the protector smiled and said, which old man would use his full strength against two children? Pei Qian gritted his teeth. You're shameless. You didn't use your full strength previously. If you have the ability, don't use your full strength now. The guardian was speechless. This child was quite shameless. How is it? How is it? Lin Yin hurried over to the three of them, looking worried. I'm fine, replied Pei Li. Huh? Is he that powerful? Lin Yin glanced at Pei Li curiously. Lin Yin had seen with her own eyes that Pei Li had been hit countless times by the guardian, but there wasn't a single wound on his body. Yeah, I'm very powerful. Pei Li nodded solemnly at Lin Yin. You're fine, but we're not. Pei Qian pointed at his face. Pei Li glanced at Pei Qian and said coldly, useless. The corner of Lin Nua's mouth twitched. Useless. Count me in too. I'm in pain too. Lin Yan's heart ached when she saw Pei Qian's bruised face. She hurriedly rubbed his bruises. Baby, does it still hurt? Asked Lin Yan softly. It hurts. Mommy, it hurts so much. Mommy, help me rub it. It hurts here too. Pei Qian rubbed his face against Lin Yan's palm. With that, Pei Qian looked at Pei Li proudly. Wasn't he completely fine? Wasn't it an immortal body? Wasn't it really useless? Seeing this, Pei Li frowned. After staring at Lin Yan for some time, Pei Li suddenly placed his hand on her wrist. Lin Yan instinctively glanced at Pei Li. Sister, I also feel pain. Pei Li said softly. Ah, didn't you say that you're fine? Where does it hurt? Asked Lin Yan frantically. Mom, don't bother about him. He's not in pain. He can't be beaten to death, and he won't feel pain, Pei Qian said anxiously. Lin Yan was dumbfounded. There were evolved beings in this world that couldn't be beaten to death? What kind of magical evolved ability was this? Why didn't she have it? Pei Li glared at Pei Qian fiercely. Although he didn't say anything, his gaze was threatening. End of this chapter. Chapter 1508. However, Pei Qian didn't fall for it at all. His face isn't swollen at all. It's his evolved ability. Pei Li stepped forward and pinched Pei Qian's face. In the next second his face, which was swollen like a balloon, instantly returned to normal. You. Pei Qian glared at Pei Li and gritted his teeth. How dare he embarrass him in front of his mother? If his mother knew about this, what would she think of him? He was too despicable. Sister, actually, I'm in pain too. Lin Nua, who had been ignored, limped over. Before he could get close to her, he sensed two unfriendly gazes. Pei Qian and Pei Li were glaring at him coldly. Why are you in pain? I'm the one who helped you take the beating, replied Pei Li. Without waiting for Pei Qian to continue speaking, a terrifying pressure surged over like a wave, instantly enveloping everyone present. Aren't you guys being rude? The guardian smiled faintly. Xing Chun wiped the sweat off his forehead. How was this impolite? This was a blatant insult. It would have been fine if the enemy was weak, but they couldn't beat him at all. How could they look down on him? The guardian glanced at the time and said, I think it's getting late. It's time to end this farce. It's said that the two guardians are the strongest besides the holy leader. However, this is all I've seen today. I'm a little disappointed. I'm afraid it won't be that easy for you to take him away. Lin Nua glanced at the guardian and spoke coldly. The guardian wasn't angry. He merely chuckled softly. President Lin, you're the president of the Hunters Guild after all. Aren't you a little out of touch with the news? I only used half of my evolved ability. If I really wanted to kill you, I could do it in the blink of an eye. As the protector of the Holy Land finished speaking, everyone's expression changed slightly. Only half of your evolved ability? Ling Yu was in disbelief. If what the protector said was true, then it was simply too terrifying. If this protector used his full strength, then it would not be as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. However, I still have to say the unpleasant things first. Today, I'm only here for the two sisters Mu Yan and Mu Yu. It has nothing to do with anyone else. I don't want you to get involved in this mess, but if you insist on stopping me, I won't hold back anymore. The protector's expression gradually turned serious. You talk too much nonsense. Watch as I punish you. Pei Qian acted as though he was going to charge forward. Come back. Pei Li looked at Pei Qian and frowned. Pei Qian was perplexed as he asked Pei Li, what's wrong? Don't be rash, Pei Li said. It wasn't easy to deal with this protector. Apart from him, no one else here had an undying body, so he had to be extremely cautious. He didn't want any casualties. What? None of you are going to make a move? The protector smiled and said, since none of you are going to make a move, then I won't hold back. Wait. Suddenly, Pei Qian shouted at the protector. Who said we aren't going to make a move? Can't we discuss it? Why are you in such a hurry? Are you rushing to reincarnate as the leader? Don't be anxious. We're going to make a move soon. Everyone looked at Pei Qian with a strange expression. As the saying goes, the one who strikes first gains the upper hand, and the one who strikes last suffers. We'll attack him from 3 different angles. I'll use the evolved ability of lightning and wind to restrict his movements. Pei Qian whispered to Pei Li and Lin Nua. End of this chapter. Chapter 1509. Before long, Lin Nua and his 2 nephews finally made their move. The 3 of them split up and dashed toward the guardian from different directions. The 3 of them were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they were only an inch away from the guardian. Their fierce attacks were like a torrential storm, suffocating everyone. However, the guardian stood where he was without any intention of dodging. No matter how fast they couldn't even touch the corner of the guardian's clothes. Lin Nua's heart skipped a beat. It seemed like the guardian wasn't lying. He probably hadn't even used half of his power. Lin Nua had already come to the conclusion that they were not a match for this Holy Land protector. He had heard that the guardian was very powerful, but he hadn't expected that he would be so powerful that he couldn't even hurt him. Such a powerful opponent was only a protector of a holy land. Just what level had the holy master of a holy land reached? Soon 3 loud sounds were heard. Pei Qian and Pei Li were first sent flying. Lin Nua persevered for a moment before he ended up in the same state as his nephews. Fortunately, Pei Li had an immortal body and wouldn't be injured. Pei Qian, on the other hand, was like a huge ball and didn't suffer any substantial injuries. Lin Nua, on the other hand, had a broken rib. How are you? Lin Yin rushed forward to help Lin Nua up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Sister, I'm fine. It's just that I'm not as good as my nephew. It's embarrassing. Lin Nua looked embarrassed. Lin Yin hadn't heard what Lin Nua had said. All she could feel was a surge of fury. She pointed at the guardian and bellowed, "You beat up 2 kids and my brother. Do you really think I'm useless? I will fight you to the death." Before Lin Yin could fight the guardian, Muyu pulled her back. "The fish will definitely die, but the net won't break." Muyu glared at Lin Yin. Lin Yin nodded at Muyu. "Yeah, I'm the net. Are you thinking too much? You're the fish, and the guardian is the net," quipped Muyu. Lin Yin glanced at Muyu and gritted her teeth. "Am I supposed to just watch? What's the difference between me and a piece of trash?" "He's trash anyway. What's the difference?" Muyu frowned. Lin Yin was speechless. He was indeed merciless. "But you're not the only one," Muyu said. Lin Yin instinctively glanced at Xing Chun and the others. "Trash Xing Chun. Trash Ling Yu. Useless Bai He. It seems like I'm more useless than you. At least you saved my life." Muyu glanced at Lin Yin. Looking at Xing Chun and the others, and hearing Muyu's words, she felt a little better. "Stop chatting. Follow me back to the Holy Land to receive your punishment. You still have time to continue chatting when you reach the Holy Land." The guardian had appeared beside Lin Yin and Muyu. He grabbed Lin Yin and Muyu with one hand. The protector's speed was too fast, catching Pei Qian and Pei Li off guard. On the other hand, Lin Nua was able to keep up with the Holy Land protector's speed, but the moment he made a move, he was forced to retreat by the Holy Land protector. "Let's go." The protector grinned. As soon as he finished speaking, hundreds of cold lights appeared, and a few young men and women descended from the sky. The man in the lead was dressed simply in white, holding a longsword in his hand. As he waved the longsword, the evolved aura was like a raging wave. The protector waved his hand and dispersed the cold light. "I'm Mu Feng from the Mu family. Let me experience the power of the protector," the leader said expressionlessly. End of this chapter. Chapter 1510. The man glanced at Lin Yin and Muyu. Lin Yin was stunned when she saw the man who had suddenly appeared. If she remembered correctly, he had said that he was from the Mu family. His name seemed to be Mu Feng. Even though she was indeed a member of the Mu family, she couldn't remember the Mu family at all. She didn't have any recollection of the Mu family members who had suddenly appeared. However, she felt as though she had heard Mu Feng's name somewhere before. This name should be very important. At least it was very important to her. The Mu family. How unexpected. I didn't expect the Mu family to be here. They came at the right time. Xing Chun heaved a sigh of relief as he glanced at the Mu family members. Ling Yu glanced at Xing Chun and said softly, I'm afraid they didn't come in time. The Mu family should have been here a long time ago, but they haven't shown up. Hearing this, Xing Chun felt quite confused and asked with a strange expression, Are you sure? How do you know? Of course I'm sure. Who would be as stupid as you? Ling Yu replied. Xing Chun was speechless. Because Xiao Ji leaked the news about Sister Yan, many evolved beings rushed over. Who doesn't want to obtain Sister Yan's ability? Ling Yu quipped. Xing Chun was puzzled. What does this have to do with what you said? I don't understand. Idiot. Ling Yu glanced at Xing Chun. Think about it. So many evolved beings want to obtain Sister Yan's ability, but almost all of them are blocked outside by the sacred ground. As long as the sacred ground is there, I'm afraid even a fly can't fly in, let alone those evolved beings. How did the Mu family get in? Could they have avoided the sacred ground without anyone knowing? Xing Chun shook his head. If the sacred ground was guarding, no matter how strong an evolved being was, no one would be able to enter this city. Besides the disciples of the sacred ground, there are also 2 guardians, and even the holy leader. Although the Mu family is powerful, even if the Mu family's mistress leads the team, they can't bypass the sacred ground, let alone force their way in, Ling Yu told Xing Chun. Xing Chun glanced at Ling Yu, looking even more confused. Yes, you're right. Then, how did the Mu family get in? Ling Yu could not help but roll her eyes. She had already said it so clearly, but Xing Chun still did not understand. The Mu family must have arrived in this city a long time ago. They just didn't show up to greet Sister Yan. They must have been watching Sister Yan in secret. Ling Yu analyzed the situation. That sounds reasonable. But why didn't they show up? Xing Chun asked again. Ling Yu, do you have 100,000 Ys? How would I know? I'm not a member of the Mu family. If we can survive tonight, you can go and ask them yourself, Ling Yu said impatiently. Xing Chun did not continue speaking. His gaze fell on the men and women of the Mu clan. Mu family's eldest son Mu Feng. Although I have never met him, I have heard of his great name. He is a legendary evolver. Xing Chun muttered. Ling Yu glanced at Xing Chun. Can you tell us something that we don't know? As an evolved being, who hasn't heard of Mu Feng? The eldest brother of the Mu family left the Mu family for a period of time and stirred up trouble overseas. He was wanted by the official Evolution Alliance overseas and was known as an SSS-rank perverted villain. His bounty was frighteningly high, and many famous evolvers died in his hands. In the end, it seemed like the Mu family's mistress accepted the mission issued by the Evolution Alliance overseas and personally subdued Mu Feng. She then took the bounty, Xing Chun said awkwardly. End of this chapter. Chapter 15:11. Ling Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What Xing Chun had said wasn't a secret. Almost everyone who paid attention to the evolved beings wanted list knew about this. Especially the fact that Master Mu's mother had taken the list and beaten up her own son. She had then claimed the huge bounty. Almost everyone knew about this. Although Madame Mu had indeed completed the mission, the Foreign Evolution Alliance had been furious. In the end, they had given Madame Mu the title of a thief who cheated the bounty. They had placed her on the wanted list and made her the only evolved being who was still alive. Lin Yan's pupils constricted as she stared at Mu Feng. She had finally remembered that he was Mu Feng. Sister, what's wrong? Lin Nua noticed that something was wrong with Lin Yan's expression. Her eyes were filled with agitation. It's him. Lin Yan tugged at Lin Nua's sleeve. Who? Lin Nua wasn't sure what Lin Yan was trying to say. Him. Mu Feng. Lin Yan replied excitedly. Yeah, the boss of the Mu family. He's a very powerful evolved being. Lin Nua nodded. No. Lin Yan shook her head hastily and gazed at Lin Nua. Do you know that he's very valuable? He's super valuable. Do you know how much his bounty is? You must know. Lin Nua frowned when he heard Lin Yan. Worth a lot. What did she mean? As the president of the Hunters Guild, Lin Nua naturally knew about Mu Feng. There were many alliances all over the world, just like the Hunters Guild. There was an evolutionary alliance that had the same nature as the Hunters Guild, and they had put out a bounty on Mu Feng's head. The reason was that Mu Feng had killed a few members of the alliance, so they had put out a bounty on Mu Feng, as an SSS-class evolver, who had done evil. The most ridiculous thing was that Madame Mu had accepted the mission. She had taught Mu Feng a lesson, and brought him back to the Mu family. The Foreign Evolution Alliance had thought that Madame Mu hadn't completed the mission, and should have killed Mu Feng. However, how could that be possible? In the end, the Foreign Evolution Alliance had concluded that Madame Mu had cheated them of their money, so they had placed Master Mu on the wanted list. Lin Nua glanced at Lin Yan. Had his sister become obsessed with money? Lin Nua was the eldest son of the Mu family. He was her brother. Lin Nua realized that the way Lin Yan looked at Mu Feng had changed. Mu Feng felt as though someone was staring at him, so he instinctively turned to look at Lin Yan. Mu Feng realized that there was something amiss about the way Lin Yan was looking at him. Sister, did you remember me? The way you're looking at me seems to be filled with longing and excitement, Mu Feng said to the woman beside him. Cousin, that should be the case. Cousin seems to have recovered her memory. After not seeing you for so many years, she must miss you. But please respect the protector of the Holy Land. He is not a small character. The girl said, Holy Land Protector, can you give me some face and not make things difficult for my two little sisters? Mu Feng's gaze finally landed on the Holy Land Protector. After Mu Feng finished speaking, the Holy Land Protector smiled faintly and said, What's wrong? Could it be that you have that much face? Mu Feng said, Since that's the case, I'll have to experience it. With that, Mu Feng disappeared from where he stood. In an instant, cold beams of light shot toward the Holy Land Protector from all directions. The Holy Land Protector leaped up and used his palm as a blade to block the cold beams. End of this chapter. Chapter 15:12. After a while, the protector of the Holy Land stood where he was and looked at Mu Feng, who was not far from him. He smiled and said, Young man, your evolution level is very high. It seems that the Mu family is also a clan that does not lack genius evolvers. Are you interested in joining the Holy Land? The responsibility of maintaining the balance of the world will fall on your shoulders in the future. As the protector of the Holy Land finished speaking, Pei Qian sneered. I say, old man, is your Holy Land lacking people? Why do you say that to everyone you see? You big liar. Mu Feng glanced at Pei Qian and said coldly, He didn't lie this time. Pei Qian was confused. Why? Mu Feng's face was expressionless. He didn't lie. I'm indeed a genius. Pei Qian was stunned. The corners of his mouth twitched. Pei Li was speechless, Xing Chen was speechless, Ling Yi was speechless. Lin Yan asked, How much is his bounty? Lin Nua was speechless. Young man, how about it? Are you interested in joining the sacred land? It will be your future glory and glory. Thank you, but I don't like balance. I'm not interested, replied Mu Feng. Alright, that's a pity. Young evolved beings these days are getting more and more irresponsible. The guardian sighed and glanced at Mu Feng. Young man, your evolution ability is indeed very strong, but it's still far from mine. Don't get in the way, or I will kill you. Guardian, if you're really that strong, would you dare to take a blow from me? Mu Feng asked solemnly. Mu Yu stared at Mu Feng with a complicated smile on her face. It's been so many years, but you haven't changed. You're still so serious and shameless. Alright, let's try. The guardian grinned. Mu Feng vanished from his spot. He moved as fast as he could and appeared beside the guardian in an instant. There was a loud swoosh. Mu Feng slashed down with his sword, bringing with it an earth-shattering sound. Ding! Under the dumbfounded gazes of the crowd, the protector of the Holy Land did not dodge the sharp sword that could destroy anything. Instead, he used 2 fingers to stop it. Mu Feng instinctively retreated and maintained a safe distance from the Holy Land protector. The protector of the Holy Land, you truly live up to your reputation. Powerful, I admire you. Mu Feng stared at the protector of the Holy Land and said coldly, Hey, young man, what era is this? You're still using a sword. You're an evolver, yet you're using a sword as a weapon. Either your brain isn't normal, Or you're deliberately trying to act cool. See, am I right? The protector stared at the sword in Mu Feng's hand and sneered. The young men and women beside Mu Feng couldn't help but look at each other. Although Mu Feng wouldn't admit it himself, the Holy Land Protector was right. He was just pretending to be cool. Bang! A loud sound reverberated throughout the arena. The protector lowered his head and looked at the wound on his shoulder. After that, he looked at Mu Feng in disbelief. Not only were the protectors of the Holy Land dumbfounded, even Pei Qian, Pei Li Lin Nua, and the rest were dumbfounded. At this moment, Lin Nua was holding a pistol that was still smoking. I just thought about it, and what you said makes sense. I will use this, Mu Feng said seriously. This bullet is specially made to target evolvers. Pei Qian was speechless, Pei Li was speechless, Lin Nua was speechless, Xing Chen was speechless, Ling Yu was speechless, Mu Yu was speechless, Lin Yan was speechless. End of this chapter. Chapter 15-13. Everyone turned to look at Mu Feng in unison. Why was the leader of the Mu family, a legendary evolved being, acting so strangely? The Guardian had said that his sword skills were outdated, but he hadn't retorted at all. Instead, he had whipped out a gun and used special bullets to injure the Guardian. Lin Yan had never imagined that the sage-like man, who had appeared with a sword in his hand, would do such a thing. What left her speechless was how he could maintain a straight face and do such a shameless thing. It was really shocking. Mu Yu stared at Mu Feng, wanting to say something. However, she didn't say anything in the end. They didn't understand the Mu family's big brother. Mu Yu had grown up with him, so she naturally knew what kind of person Mu Feng was. This fellow wasn't easy to deal with. He had liked to bully her and her sister Mu Yan since they were young. Not only that, but he had also bullied the younger generation of the Mu family. Not only was he evil, but he was also extremely shameless. Of course, Mu Feng might not think that he was shameless, but everything he did, even though his expression was very serious, was very shameless. Just like how he had bullied her and her sister, Mu Yan, back then. How could she imagine that the serious-looking big brother would casually snatch their snacks away? Therefore, what Mu Feng did just now, others might find it unbelievable and extremely shocking, but she wouldn't. It was all too normal. In fact, when he made his move, she already had a bad premonition. In the end, as expected, his elegance was still the same as before. How can there be such a shameless young man like you in this world? I'm just saying that as an evolved being, you are very deliberate with your sword. It's strange. I didn't ask you to change your gun, but you used special bullets. As an evolved being, don't you think it's embarrassing to use an ordinary person's gun? The Guardian glared at Mu Feng as he bellowed. Mu Feng pondered for a moment before he lowered his head, as though he was looking for something. Cousin, stop looking. I left the fiercer ones at home. Isn't it tiring to carry that thing? Besides, ordinary people would be scared out of their wits. We would be taken away, a girl said timidly. Oh, Mu Feng glanced at the girl. The protector frowned deeply. Just now, what was that young man looking for? Xing Chen poked the back of Ling Yu's hand. Just now, was he looking for cannons? I don't know, but it seems like maybe there is such a possibility. I always feel that there is something wrong with this person's brain, and he is not someone to be trifled with. Ling Yu wiped the sweat off her forehead. Hey, Pei Li, what was he looking for? Pei Qian looked at Pei Li. It could be a rocket launcher, Pei Li said after thinking for a moment. Fine. Since that's the case, I won't use a gun. Even if it's a special bullet, it shouldn't pose much of a threat to you, Mu Feng said calmly. All right. Young man, let us continue. The protector of the Holy Land chuckled. Bang! Just as he finished speaking, Mu Feng raised his hand and shot the Holy Land protector's wrist. Lin Yan was speechless, Lin Nua, Pei Qian, Pei Li, Mu Yu was speechless, Xing Chen, Ling Yu, the Mu family members. End of chapter. Chapter 15-14. Lin Yan stared at Mu Feng intently. This man, Was he really the SSS wanted criminal on the evolved being's bounty list? Although he was worth a lot of money, he didn't seem like someone to provoke. Suddenly, Lin Yan shook her head vigorously. What was she thinking? Although this man was extremely valuable, he was from the Mu family, so he should be her brother. Previously, she was actually thinking of ways to capture Mu Feng and exchange him for tons of rewards. How could I do that? Lin Yan mumbled to herself, ashamed of her previous thoughts. She wished she could slap herself on the spot. How could she have been so stupid? Why hadn't she just kidnapped him? Hadn't Madame Mu done that back then? At that moment, the protector looked at his wrist and frowned slightly. Shortly after, he looked at Mu Feng and sighed. Say, you youngsters these days really don't have any manners at all. You said you don't need to use it, yet you stabbed me with your spear again. You really are a little bastard. Mu Feng replied calmly. I didn't need it, but there was still one bullet left. It would be a waste if I didn't use it. I've used it now. After Mu Feng finished speaking, he threw the pistol aside. This kind of toy shouldn't be a problem for other evolved beings. But it won't work on me, said the Guardian. The wound that the Guardian had been pierced by the special bullet healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Just as he had said, this kind of thing had no effect on him. Looking at the protector of the Holy Land, Mu Feng didn't refute him. He had only done it on a whim. Naturally, he knew that such a thing wouldn't be able to threaten the protector of the Holy Land. Not to mention the protector's body. Even if the protector's forehead was hit, he wouldn't feel any pain. In a second, the aura of an evolved being on Mu Feng's body rose to its peak. It was as though a primordial beast that had been sealed for a long time had awakened. Xing Chun, who was surprised by the change in Mu Feng's aura, said, What a terrifying aura. What level of evolution did you achieve? Indeed, he is very powerful. However, he looked at Mu Feng. Even if that was the case, he was still too weak to deal with the protector from a Holy Land. Of the two Holy Land protectors, one had evolved purely in the spiritual domain, while the other had evolved purely in the physical domain. Both had reached the pinnacle, and now, they were facing a protector whose physical body had evolved to the pinnacle. Although the Mu clan's Mu Feng was powerful, compared to a protector, he was probably still inferior. However, it was not appropriate for Bai He to say such morale-shattering words. Everyone was looking at Mu Feng. It was rare to see such a powerful evolver, and they were all looking forward to it. Little bastard. The Holy Land protector looked at Mu Feng with a smile. Originally, this matter had nothing to do with you. However, you insisted on causing trouble. So I can only kill you first. Pei Qian pointed at Pei Li, who was beside him, and said, Humph, shamelessly boastful old man. What's the point of killing him? If you have the ability, then kill this one. As soon as Pei Qian finished speaking, Pei Li looked at Pei Qian with an unfriendly gaze. The Holy Land protector couldn't be bothered with Pei Qian. He stared at Mu Feng and said, Are you ready to die? Hearing this, Mu Feng frowned and said coldly, I'm not ready yet. Wait a moment. The Holy Land protector was speechless. Sorry for the long wait. There will be more later. End of this chapter. Chapter 15:15. Had he been in seclusion for too long? Youngsters these days were different. It was the same for the young and the old. This must be the generation gap. I'm done, Mu Feng said. Then I'll start with you. The Guardian was about to strike. Mu Feng said, Hold on. I'm not ready. I've thought about it. The Guardian seemed to have lost his patience. What do you mean? Her and her. Mu Feng pointed at Lin Yan and Mu Yu. I give up on these two sisters. I'm no match for you. You can take them away. They have nothing to do with me anyway, Mu Feng replied. Lin Yan was speechless. Mu Yu was speechless. Everyone was speechless. Nothing to do with them? The Guardian was puzzled. Aren't they your sisters? How could they have nothing to do with you? Yeah. Mu Feng nodded. It's fine. Mother can give birth to more sisters. You little be asterisk starred. You're really heartless. If I were your parents, I would have drowned you when you were born, the Guardian quipped. Mu Feng studied the Guardian for a moment before replying solemnly, My mother doesn't like you. The Guardian was speechless. Forget it. I won't talk nonsense with you. Since you've said that you won't interfere in this matter, I have no reason to attack you. This has nothing to do with you anymore. The guardian grabbed Lin Yan and Mu Yu, who had yet to snap back to their senses. However, just as the protector was about to leave, Mu Feng appeared behind the protector as though he had teleported. The sword in his right hand, and his left fist punched out at the same time. The sword landed on the protector's back, while the fist landed on his neck. The guardian was sent flying in an instant. Mu Feng, you're a disgrace to the Mu family. Mu Yu sneered coldly at Mu Feng. Mu Feng stared at Mu Yu expressionlessly. He opened his mouth, but there was no sound. Mu Yu flew into a rage when she read Mu Feng's lips. Scold me again. Even Lin Yan was infuriated. He had just said that Mu Yu was ugly. Lin Yan gritted her teeth. Was this man blind? How was Mu Yu ugly? Did he even have a human sense of beauty? Mu Yu was clearly as beautiful as a fairy. Don't speak nonsense. Lin Yan glared at Mu Feng. Sister Mu Yu looks like a fairy. She's the prettiest girl in the world. Are you blind? Mu Yu sneered coldly. You sure are tactful. Before Lin Yan could reply, the ground shook violently. Be careful. But he couldn't help but shout. The protector stomped his foot on the ground and shot forward like a cannonball. Boom! A loud sound exploded like muffled thunder. The protector of the Holy Land slammed into Mu Feng, causing him to fall to the ground. Little bastard, your mouth is truly full of lies. The envoy from the Holy Land scolded sternly as he looked at Mu Feng, who was in an extremely sorry state. Although Mu Feng's methods were unable to cause much harm to him, the protector of the Holy Land hated this kind of behavior to the extreme. Are you all right? Lin Yan was worried about Mu Feng's safety. You'll know once you try. Mu Feng stood up and patted the dust off his clothes. Mu Feng stared at the protector with a frown. I, Mu Feng, am a man of my words. I have always been indomitable and indomitable. Of course I wouldn't lie. I just regret it. We didn't agree that I can't go back on my word. End of this chapter. Chapter 15-16. After Mu Feng finished speaking, the protector of the sacred land did not say anything else, and sent a palm strike towards him. Mu Feng's expression changed slightly, as he raised his sword to block it. When the protector's palm landed on the sword was broken, and Mu Feng was forced to retreat more than 10 steps. Is the guardian really that powerful? Lin Yan's heart skipped a beat. He was just a guardian, yet he had already made them feel hopeless. So many powerful evolved beings weren't enough. If this guardian had been more vicious, they would have died a long time ago. Besides, there were 2 guardians, and above them was the holy leader. Is there no way to defeat him? Lin Yan glanced at Mu Yu nervously. Yes, replied Mu Yu. What is it? Asked Lin Yan anxiously. Just find an evolved being stronger than him, replied Mu Yu coldly. Lin Yan was speechless. She was really smart. Did she need to say that? You're so beautiful. Lin Yan suppressed her anger and smiled at Mu Yu. You too, replied Mu Yu. You and you guys. Mu Feng pointed at Lin Nua and Pei Qian. Can't you see that I can't beat him? Yes, we can't do anything about it. We can't beat him either. Pei Qian was confused. Can't you help me? Are you just going to watch me get beaten up? Asked Mu Feng. The few of them were speechless. His invincible aura had been too intimidating. How would they dare to step forward? What if he held them back? Soon, Lin Nua and the others surrounded the guardian. You. Mu Feng pointed at Xing Chen, Ling Yu and Bai He. You guys. Mu Feng frowned. It's fine. Xing Chen was speechless, Ling Yu was speechless, Bai He was speechless. What do you mean by that? Are you looking down on us? Xing Chen was indignant. I think what you said. Xing Chen's indignation was replaced by a smile when he sensed Mu Feng's cold gaze. I think what you said. You said. You're right. It was best not to provoke evolved beings of this level, especially Mu Feng. He wasn't normal, so it wouldn't be surprising if he did anything. Hit him. Mu Feng pointed at the protectors of the sacred land as he spoke to Lin Nua and the rest. It's not easy to handle. Lin Nua opened his mouth. This Holy Land protector's fleshly body has evolved to the extreme, Only evolvers in the spiritual domain can harm him. Aren't you the leader of the Hunters Guild? Does the Hunters Guild not have any evolvers with mental abilities? Paley asked. Lin Nua smiled bitterly. I'm just the president. It doesn't mean that I have absolute control. The Hunters Guild system is more complete, and the Holy Land Protector did not violate our rules. So I'm just representing myself to participate in the battle, and not representing the Hunters Guild. Moreover, although the Hunters Guild had evolved people with a spiritual domain, using them to deal with a Holy Land Guardian of this level was tantamount to courting death. They would not be of any use at all. In order to deal with an evolver of this level, one must at least have an extremely high level of spiritual evolution. Otherwise it would be useless. Paley fell into deep thought. Although he had an immortal body, it was difficult for his power to cause any harm to the guardian of the holy ground. If only an evolved being with a spiritual domain could give it a try, then Pei Yucheng. Without waiting for Paley to ponder, the Holy Land Protector launched his attack. End of chapter. Chapter 15-17. Although they weren't a match for the Guardian, they had the advantage in numbers. They wouldn't be defeated instantly, especially Paley, who was very difficult to deal with. Sister Muyu, aren't you an evolved being with a spiritual domain? Lin Yin glanced at Muyu. There were so many people present, but only Muyu had evolved in the spiritual domain. Muyu shook her head. I tried, but his spiritual defense is too strong. My mind control can't penetrate it. I can't do it. Is there no other way? Asked Lin Yin. Yes. Find someone stronger than him to defeat? The corners of Lin Yan's mouth twitched. Muyu replied, Pei Yucheng's spiritual domain is very strong. Let Pei Yucheng restrain him, and they should be able to do it. Lin Yin was speechless. This was a good idea. But it was a pity that Pei Yucheng was in seclusion and couldn't rush over. Although Lin Yin had never broken through and evolved before, she knew that once a high-level evolved being decided to break through, the process would be extremely dangerous. The slightest mistake could result in eternal damnation. If she disturbed Pei Yucheng's evolution now, he might die. Can he come? Muyu glanced at Lin Yin. I don't think so. Lin Yin replied honestly. Then there's nothing else to say, replied Muyu. Before Lin Yin could reply, a heavy object slammed into her. She stumbled and almost fell. Sister, I'm sorry. Lin Nua glanced at Lin Yin and smiled awkwardly. I was accidentally sent flying by the Guardian. Just as Lin Nua finished speaking, Pei Qian and Paley also flew over, looking extremely miserable. Only Mu Feng was still fighting bitterly. Lin Nua reacted swiftly and grabbed the two brothers. How can we fight? The difference is too big. If you are so capable, give me 10 years. Shameless old man. Lin Yin stroked Pei Qian's head as she watched him cursing and swearing. Are you guys watching a show? Mu Feng glanced at the young men and women of the Mu family. The young men and women of the Mu family looked helpless. They wanted to fight, but they weren't strong enough. Not only would they not be able to help, but they would also be a burden. It seemed like Mu Feng was anxious. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked them to fight. At that moment, Lin Yan's phone rang at an inopportune time. She had wanted to hang up, but when she saw the caller, she braced herself and answered the call. Lame lunatic, Xiao Ji. She had just picked up the call when he hung up. Lin Yin was confused. Soon Lin Yin spotted a few figures. Xiao Yao was dressed in formal attire. He looked at the things in his hands while looking at the road ahead. Found it, said Xiao Yao. When he got closer, Lin Yin realized that he was holding a compass. Xiao Yao led the way with a compass, while Xiao Ji sat in a wheelchair pushed by a young man. Lin Yin was startled when she saw the man pushing the wheelchair. Lin Yin naturally recognized the man. In fact, she was very familiar with him. The younger brother he recognized, Xiaozhe. Although he was her brother, she didn't know much about his background. She only knew that Xiaozhe was powerful and had a lot of information. All these years, she had asked Xiaozhe to gather information about her brother, but he hadn't found anything useful. However, Lin Yin didn't understand why Xiaozhe would be with Xiao Ji. and help him push the wheelchair. Xiaozhe. Xiaoji. Lin Yan's expression changed. They both had the surname Xiao. Could this fellow be Xiao Yao's illegitimate son? End of this chapter. Chapter 15:18. The more Lin Yan thought about it, the more she felt that it was possible. Besides, Xiaozhe and Xiaoji looked very similar. Xiaozhe was Xiaoji's illegitimate son, although Xiaoji looked young, as a powerful evolved being. Who knew how old he was? Perhaps he was already in his 50s or 60s. Xiaozhe glanced at Lin Yan and raised his hand to greet her. However, not only did Lin Yan ignore him, but she also sized him up with a strange gaze. She sized him up, and then sized up his brother Xiaoji. Xiaozhe was a little embarrassed. He reckoned that Lin Yan had guessed that he was Xiaoji's younger brother. However, he hadn't hidden his identity, so she had never asked about it. Xiao Yao finally felt relieved when he saw the situation. It seemed like he had made it in time. He hadn't expected Xiaoji to have such foresight. He had actually guessed that Guardian Long would definitely ignore the Holy Lord's orders, and ignore the large number of evolved beings outside the city. He would enter the city first to look for Lin Yan. Xiao Yao was deep in thought as he studied the old man. That person should be one of the two guardians of the sacred ground, Guardian Long, whose body had evolved to the limit. Guardian Long, it's been a long time since we last met. You're still as elegant as ever. Xiaoji greeted the Guardian with a faint smile. The Guardian sized up Xiaoji for a moment, and seemed to recall something. Suddenly he smiled. Oh, I know you. You were a member of Mountain Sea back then. You must be Mountain Sea by Zay, the retard of Mountain Sea. It seems like Guardian Long still can't tell what's a retard, and what's a wise man. I've also realized something. Xiaoji grinned. What is it? Tell me, the Guardian said curiously. No matter how powerful an evolved being is, or how far they can evolve, they still need to study hard. Otherwise, they wouldn't be like Guardian Long. They are powerful, but their brains are empty. They are illiterate and make a fool of themselves, Xiaoji said softly. The Guardian's face turned pale. You're cultured. How did you become a cripple? Xiaoji didn't think much of it. I became a cripple because I evolved too deeply, and my body couldn't take it. This doesn't seem to have anything to do with culture. Instead, it's Guardian Long who said that. Why? Do they know each other? Xing Chen looked at Ling Yu and asked softly. According to Xiaoji's character, he should not be so talkative. Not only do we know each other, but we also have a blood feud. Ling Yu replied softly. This protector has killed so many members of the mountain and sea realm. Back then, he even seriously injured Xiaoji. It's already very polite of Xiaoji to not curse his ancestors. Xing Chen. Xiaoji, have you forgotten the pain of that year? Since you didn't die, why don't you cherish your life? Instead, you plan on interfering again? The Holy Land's protector sneered. Protector Long is too kind. It's just a lowly life. Xiaoji didn't get angry. He just smiled and said, I don't plan to fight today. It seems that Protector Long worries too much. That's for the best. I can't bear to kill you after seeing how crippled you are. The Protector sighed. Xiaoji shook his head and said, Although I don't intend to interfere, Guardian Long killed many of my close friends and heavily injured me. As the saying goes, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Guardian Long was illiterate at that time, so he probably didn't understand. You're courting death. The Holy Land's protector shouted angrily. He had just ridiculed Shanhai Baizhe as an idiot. It wasn't that he didn't understand the meaning of the words idiot and think tank. Instead, he was insulted by the words. End of this chapter. Chapter 15:19. Xiaoji chuckled softly as he watched the Guardian rush over. Guardian Long, do you still think that I'm Baizhe? I used to be standing, but now I'm a cripple. I've lost both my legs, but what I've obtained is power. The smile on Xiaoji's face vanished instantly, replaced by a bone-chilling coldness. Just one glance seemed to be able to send one into the abyss of Azura, and consign them to eternal damnation. Even Xiaozhe and Xiao Yao felt a piercing chill. Xiaozhe's entire aura changed drastically. as though he was an ancient god who had descended to the world with arrogance. Anyone who dared to despise a true god would die without a place to hide. Bang! Xiaoji sat in his wheelchair without moving an inch. The guardian's speed, which had been so fast that it couldn't be seen with the naked eye, suddenly slowed down. Occasionally, there would be a dull look in his eyes. Although he would wake up quickly, he would fall back into a dull state the next second. This repeated and repeated, forming a vicious cycle. The boss of the third firmament? Mu Yu's eyes trailed to Xiaoji. Just how far had this person's spiritual domain evolved? It was actually able to break through the guardian's spiritual defense in an instant without any warning. How could there be someone in this world who could reach such a level? Mu Yu was also a spiritual type evolved being. Although she wasn't a combat type, she was a control type. She had tried to break the guardian's spiritual defense previously, but it had been impossible. She felt a deep sense of powerlessness when faced with the guardian's spiritual defense. If she had to describe it, it would be as though the guardian's spiritual defense was an incomparably huge steel wall that could break through the sky. She was just a child who had just turned 1 month old. Other than powerlessness and despair, there was nothing else she could do. The boss of the third firmament wasn't just a pure spiritual type evolved being, but his level of evolution was unfathomable. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The protector bent his waist, as though he was being crushed by an invisible mountain. The protector tried his best to straighten his body, trying to resist. His body exerted too much force, and because his strength was too great, a deep pit was formed in the ground, and the surrounding ground was filled with cracks. Kneel. Xiaoji sat in his wheelchair, his face emotionless. His voice was cold and piercing, as though it didn't come from this world. Bastard! The protector of the Holy Land roared angrily, trying to break free. But in the next second, his expression became extremely sluggish. His knees cracked the ground, and he knelt on one knee. Mind control? Mu Yu looked at Xiaoji with deep shock in her eyes. She was wrong. The boss of the third firmament was not only a pure combat form-type spiritual domain evolver, he was also a spiritual control evolver. The spiritual domain had undergone a double evolution. Go kill this bad old man, Pei Qian bellowed, and immediately rushed towards the dazed protector. Idiot, come back! Pei Li wanted to grab Pei Qian, but he ran too fast. In the end, as soon as he got close to the protector of the Holy Land, Pei Qian's eyes started to glaze over, and he knelt on the ground with a thud. He seemed to have lost his soul, and his entire body was covered in sweat. Not good. Lin Nua was shocked. Idiot! Pei Li frowned when he saw Pei Qian's expression. Couldn't he see that Xiaoji was a spiritual evolver? As long as he looked at him at a close distance, he would fall into his indiscriminate attack. End of chapter. Chapter 1520. Xiaoji glanced at Pei Qian, and couldn't help but frown. The guardian could still resist, but Pei Qian couldn't. If Xiaoji ignored him, even if he could kill the guardian today, Pei Qian would probably end up the same way. I'll go and save him. Bai He was about to step forward. However, before Bai He could move, Lin Nua stepped forward and stopped him. You're not going to save him. You're going to die, Lin Nua told Bai He. At Xiaoji's level, only an evolved being of the same level could resist his spiritual domain attack. An evolved being like Bai He would die in an instant if he was careless. Will he die? Asked Bai He. Forget about it, replied Lin Nua solemnly. Then, can we find someone who won't die to save him? Following Bai He's words, everyone's gaze landed on Pei Li. Pei Li didn't reply. Needless to say, he planned to do the same. Don't go. Mu Feng placed his palm on Pei Li's left shoulder. Why? Pei Li was puzzled. As long as you're not an evolved being of the same level as him, you won't be able to move as long as you get close to him, explained Mu Feng. What should we do then? Ling Yan limped over anxiously. Mu Feng shook his head. There was no good solution unless Xiaoji dispersed his spiritual control and attack power. Otherwise, before Lin Yan could respond, Pei Qian ran out of the room, drenched in sweat. Evidently, Xiaoji had made a decision and stopped. Although Pei Qian was fine, the same was true for the guardian. Without any hesitation, the guardian dashed toward Xiaoji. The protector knew that he had to kill Xiaoji as soon as possible. No matter how terrifying Xiaoji's spiritual domain was, his body was extremely weak. Just look at his legs. In fact, Xiaoji's physique was probably inferior to that of an ordinary evolved being. As long as he got close to him, he would be killed. The threat that Xiaoji posed to him was too great. If it hadn't been for the special circumstances, he would have died here today. Who would have thought that the wizard of the mountains and seas would grow to such a terrifying height? Seeing the Holy Land protector rushing towards Xiaoji without hesitation, the first to react were Mu Feng and Lin Nua. Obviously, the protector of the Holy Land had made up his mind to kill Xiaoji after experiencing the terror of Xiaoji. Although Xiaoji's spiritual domain was terrifying, his body was very fragile. Even if Lin Yin got close to him, she would be able to kill Xiaoji, let alone a peak-evolved being like the guardian of the sacred ground. The protector of the Holy Land was not far from the age of the continent of the 9 clouds, and his speed was extremely fast, so it was impossible to stop him. Seeing that the protector of the Holy Land had rushed over, Xiaoyao took a few steps forward and guarded beside Xiaoji. Bang! You're in the way, scram! The protector of the Holy Land shouted. In the next second, Xiaoyao's fist collided with the protector's fist. With a loud bang, Xiaoyao was no match for Lin Yun. He was forced to retreat more than 10 steps before he managed to stabilize himself. Xiao Zhe, who was in charge of pushing the wheelchair, was at a loss for what to do. Although he was also an evolved being, he was a weakling. Fighting wasn't his forte. His forte was obtaining information and making money. The treasures had been waiting for a long time. Continue writing. End of this chapter. Chapter 1521. Big Brother. Xiaozhe glanced at Xiaoji worriedly. Xiaoji was expressionless. He merely lifted his head and scanned the sky, ignoring Xiaozhe. The protector had just approached Xiaozhe when a figure suddenly descended from the sky. The newcomer kicked the Holy Land's protector's head. No one knew what had happened, but they saw the person knock the protector to the ground. How dare you bully my daughter? Not even the sacred ground can do that. The woman landed on the ground and bellowed coldly. Mu Ningxuang. Mu Yu's pupils constricted when she saw the woman. She was agitated. Mu Ningxuang. Lin Yan's heart skipped a beat when she saw the woman. Actually, Lin Yan could roughly guess the woman's identity based on Mu Yu's expression. She was the mistress of the Mu family, their mother. Mu Ningxuang scrutinized Lin Yan and Mu Yu with a conflicted expression. Xiaoyan Xiaoyu. Mu Ningxuang murmured softly. Mu Ningxuang. Mu Yu glared at the woman, her eyes bloodshot. Mu Ningxuang had been the one who had pushed her to the sacred ground to die in place of Mu Yan. Mu Ningxuang could tell that Mu Yu hated her when she heard her tone. However, things weren't as she had imagined. She had a lot of responsibility for today's situation. Mistress of the Mu family, how dare you? I'll just pretend that the younger generation of the Mu family is ignorant and won't pursue the matter. As the mistress of the Mu family, your actions are openly provoking the sacred ground. Are you declaring war on the sacred ground? The protector patted the dust off his body and stood up as though nothing had happened. Although Mu Ningxuang had a lot to say to Lin Yin and Mu Yu, now wasn't the time. I wouldn't dare go against the sacred ground. I'm just fulfilling my duty as a mother. It's my duty as a mother to protect my children. Mu Ningxuang glanced at the protector. Protector Long, if you want to kill me, that was your best chance. It's also your only chance in this life. Unfortunately, you didn't grasp it the last time, and you still don't have the confidence this time. Xiaoji glared at the protector. D***. Cold sweat broke out on the protector's forehead. He knew that Xiaoji wasn't joking. Back when the mountains and seas had been destroyed, he had allowed Xiaoji to survive because of a moment of carelessness. What had just been a good opportunity had been ruined by the matriarch of the Mu clan. At the moment, Xiaoji's spiritual domain had been reactivated, and the Mu family's mistress was beside Xiaoji, so he couldn't kill Xiaoji instantly. The protector of the Holy Land did not waste any time and turned around to retreat. However, before he could do anything, his mind was in a trance. Before he knew what had happened, he had already completely lost his will and consciousness. Is he dead? Looking at the protector of the Holy Land who had fallen heavily to the ground, the white crane exclaimed in disbelief. I don't think so. However, if we don't use the spiritual domain to undo his spiritual seal, he will fall into an eternal slumber, Mufeng said. Boom! Pei punched the tree behind Pei Qian, breaking it in half. Are you crazy? Pei Qian asked in surprise. Idiot! Pei glared at Pei Qian furiously. You almost killed everyone. Pei was unconvinced. He wanted to refute, but he couldn't refute anything. He was indeed too impulsive this time. It's not like I did it on purpose. Pei Qian snorted softly, then quietly hooked Pei Li's little hand. Okay, it's really my fault. I'm sorry, big brother. Don't be angry, I already know my mistake. It's not like you don't know my personality. Who told you not to look at me? Pei Li listened to Pei Qian calling him big brother, and acting coquettishly to him. An imperceptible blush appeared on his little face, and his tone was stiff as he said, Your spirit is not damaged, right? No. Big brother, you still love me, Pei Qian said with a smile. Pei Li, shut up. Chapter 15:22. Are the two of you all right? Lin Yan scurried over to Pei Qian, and Pei Lian squatted down. Her heart ached for them. Mommy, I'm fine. Pei Qian pounced into Lin Yan's arms, and admitted his mistake guiltily. Mommy, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's good that you're fine. You can't be so reckless next time. Lin Yan was talking to Pei Qian when Mu Ningxuang walked over. She studied the two children curiously and muttered to Lin Yan. These two children look so much like Qing when he was young. Lin Yan glanced at Mu Ningxuang. She didn't know how to speak to her. You are. Lin Yan sounded nervous. Mu Ningxuang's eyes met Lin Yan's. Mu Ningxuang was speechless for a long time, but her eyes were red. Her daughter had actually asked her who she was. I'm Mommy. Mu Ningxuang's eyes were red as she smiled. I'm Mommy. Mommy? Pei Qian and Pei Li were astonished and in disbelief. So this pretty sister, who looked about the same age as their mother, was their mother's mother and their grandmother? Lin Yan's emotions were complicated. Logically speaking, she should be happy and excited to see her family. However, she hadn't regained her memory, so the person in front of her was a stranger. She didn't know how to greet her. However, the woman gave her a warm feeling. She must have been very close to her in the past. Mu Ningxuang. Suddenly, Mu Yu screamed and rushed forward with a dagger in her hand. She pressed it against the woman's neck. Xiao Yao was speechless. Xiao Zhe was speechless. What is this family doing? Doesn't anyone care about Big Brother? Big Brother saved everyone. Such a terrifying enemy fell just like that. There was no applause, no cheers, and no tears of joy. I can't accept this. Xiao Zhe snorted in displeasure. Xiao Ji glanced at Xiao Zhe. Although his face was expressionless, his eyes seemed to be expressing his agreement. Mu Yu, what are you doing? Mu Feng bellowed coldly. It has nothing to do with you. Mu Yu ignored Mu Feng and glared at Mu Ningxuang. Mu Yu, calm down. She is. Lin Yan blurted out anxiously. Mu Yu interrupted her. She's your mother, not mine. Otherwise, she wouldn't have sent me to the Holy Land to die for you. You have to figure this out first. Lin Yan tried to persuade her. She had a feeling that Mu Ningxuang wasn't that kind of person. Clear? I've already died once. What else do I need to know? Mu Yu said angrily. Lin Yan glanced at Mu Ningxuang and scratched her head. She still couldn't call her mom, so she didn't force herself. Can you tell us what happened? I've lost all my memories. I can't remember anything at all. Mu Ningxuang glanced at Mu Yu before turning to Lin Yan. She sighed as though she wanted to say something. Let me explain. Suddenly, Mu Feng stood up and said, Lin Yan, and the rest turned to look at Mu Feng. Sigh, I don't know what to say for a while, Mu Feng said seriously. Lin Yan was speechless. Mu Feng sighed when he saw that Mu Yu's expression wasn't right. You're not only ugly, but you're also very stupid. Use your brain and think about it. No matter how much of a B** starred your mother is, even if she beat her son up to cheat for the reward money, even if she is still a mother. End of this chapter. Chapter 1523. Muyu frowned. What are you trying to say? The corners of Lin Yan's mouth twitched. Can't you get to the point? Oh, it's actually very simple. Back then, the Holy Land tried to kill Mu Yan. In the end, Mu Yan did not manage to die, and was saved by Mu Yang. The Holy Land personally went to the Mu family, and said that Mu Yan had made a mistake, and ran away to escape punishment. If they did not hand Mu Yan over, they would be listed as fugitives from the Holy Land. Mu Feng looked at Mu Yu and continued. We didn't know what happened back then. Mu Yan had already gone missing, and couldn't be handed over to the Holy Land. No one thought too much about it. We only thought that Mu Yan was in her rebellious phase, and had caused trouble, or broken the school rules. We only wanted to settle the matter first, so we asked you to pretend to be Mu Yan, and go to the Holy Land to receive your punishment, lest Mu Yan becomes a fugitive from the Holy Land. Mu Ningxuang reached out, and gently placed her hand on Mu Yu's head. I've been blaming myself for all these years. If I had been more cautious, and sensed that something was wrong with the sacred land, things might not have turned out this way. To me, you and Yan are the same. Why should I believe you? Mu Yu shouted. Even if you don't understand Mom, don't you understand me? Mu Feng asked. What do you mean? Mu Yu asked. How would we know about Mu Yan's evolved ability? Who in the family doesn't think of her as a piece of trash? Don't you think of her as a piece of trash? Mu Feng curled his lips. Lin Yan was speechless. Hey, she's still here. Is it really okay to say that in front of her? So what? What does it have to do with this? Mu Yu said impatiently. Why did the master of the Holy Land want to kill Mu Yan? It's because of Mu Yan's incredible ability to evolve. We don't know about this ability. So how could we know that the Holy Land wanted to kill Mu Yan? Isn't this very reasonable? Moreover, at that time, I was the one who suggested to Mom to let you go in first. When we find that little bastard Mu Yan, we'll swap you back. It was just a stopgap measure. I really didn't know it would turn out like this, Mu Feng said. Do you think I'd believe that you guys don't know about Mu Yan's abilities? Mu Yu sneered. So as I said just now, even if you don't understand Mom, don't you understand me? If we knew my sister had that kind of ability, would we have sent her to the Holy Land? Do you take me for a fool? Or do you take your mother for a fool? If I knew she had such an ability, I would definitely have kept her at home, and let her help us break through the bottleneck of evolution. Mu Feng's face was full of pity. Lin Yan was speechless. Hee, I feel like a tool. Fair and reasonable. Xiao Ji interjected at an untimely time. Lin Yan was speechless. Shut up. I believe that if the mistress of the Mu family really knew about the nine-headed phoenix's special evolution ability, she would never let Mu Yan enter the Holy Land. This is equivalent to sending Mu Yan to her death. Mu Yu, you just said that the mistress of the Mu family can only sacrifice you for Mu Yan. You can think about it. If the mistress of the Mu family knows about her ability, she can just stop her from going to the Holy Land. Everything will be solved, Xiao Ji said. Hearing this, Mu Feng clapped his hands and said, as expected of the Mountain Sea Realm's think tank. I've said so much, but none of it was as clear as a single sentence from you. However, Mu Yu did not believe such an excuse no matter what. She sneered and said, you don't have to say that. Be it me or Mu Yan, we are not members of the Mu family, and we are definitely not her daughter. The Mu family used to be a subsidiary force of the Shang family, and we only accepted a mission. Even if you don't know what Mu Yan's ability represents, the purpose of my existence is to eliminate disasters for her. Don't you know that? End of chapter. Chapter 1524. Although Mu Yu couldn't accept it, she had to admit that it was the truth. From the beginning, she was just a tool that was born for Mu Yan, and a tool that would die for Mu Yan. This was her mission, and the meaning of her existence in this world. However, she also had feelings. She relied on her family and loved them deeply. She understood joy and anger, good and evil. Even if she was cloned from Mu Yan's cells, even if the meaning of her existence was because of Mu Yan, why didn't anyone tell her about it from the beginning? Not only did they not let her understand her mission, but they even treated her as family. At least when she was young, she never doubted her identity. If Mu Ningxuang didn't treat her as a daughter, and Mu Yan didn't treat her as a sister, would it have been better if they had told her that she was a clone, and that she was destined to live and die for Mu Yan? If that was the case, she would have had a long time to accept it. She wouldn't have experienced the heart-wrenching pain of being abandoned and used by her family. If she had never received it, perhaps it wouldn't have been so painful. Mu Feng looked at Mu Ningxuang, not knowing what to say. Only his mother knew about everything. You're right. After a long time, Mu Ningxuang looked at Mu Yu and said, "The meaning of your existence was for little Yan." Hearing this, Mu Yu's body trembled slightly. Even if she already knew the truth, hearing it from this woman's mouth, she still felt a chill down her spine, and her heart was like dead ashes. Everything was her problem. She clearly knew why she existed in this world, but she couldn't accept it. This was probably her fault. Mu Ningxuang sighed. The Shang family did clearly tell me the meaning of your existence. I also told little Yin the truth. You were born to protect her. But little Yin never agreed to use you as a tool, and didn't tell you about it. She really treated you as her sister. In the end, I chose to respect little Yan's opinion, and let her have a sister to accompany her. You're so similar to little Yan, and as cute as little Yan. Moreover, I raised you since you were young. Just like little Yan, I have long treated you as family. Mu Yu stared at Mu Ningxuang's eyes. Their eyes met. She wanted to find a flaw in Mu Ningxuang's eyes, but she couldn't find anything. Was it really like what Mu Ningxuang said? Was everything just a coincidence? Be careful. Suddenly, Lin Nua's expression changed greatly as he shouted at Mu Yu. Almost no one could react in time. A youth appeared out of nowhere and moved like a ghost. In an instant, he snatched Mu Yu's saber and sent her flying. Looking at the youth, Mu Ningxuang's expression changed. As for Mu Feng and the other members of the Mu clan, they immediately assumed a highly vigilant posture. How is it? Lin Yan hurried over to Mu Yu and helped her up. Then, she turned to look at the young man. The young man had short white hair and was wearing cute child-style pajamas. He was chewing gum, and his eyes were filled with coldness. Could it be another protector of the Holy Land? Why do they look so small? Lin Yan frowned. However, it was obvious that Lin Yan had overthought things. Greetings, mistress. The young man bowed to Mu Ningxuang. Mistress, father told you before that clone number 23. Oh, she's Mu Yu. Her purpose of existence is to help my little sister block disasters. Only when she dies would she be considered to have completed her mission. End of chapter. Chapter 1525. What's going on? Xingchen was shocked. That child's evolution aura is terrifying. It's close to that of the protector. Ling Yu was equally shocked. Xingchen asked, what's his background? Could he be an enemy of that demoness? Ling Yu shook her head. I don't know either. I don't have any information about this person. I don't know if he's a friend or foe. Don't act rashly. Shang-san. Mu Ningxuang stared at the youth in shock. Mistress, I'm only the third child. You can't change my name to Shang-san just because I'm the third child. My name is Shang Hui, the youth said. Shang-san. What are you doing? Mu Feng shouted. Shang Hui was speechless. Little Feng, don't be so rude. Mu Ningxuang looked at Mu Feng with displeasure. The adopted children of the Shang clan were not to be trifled with, especially this youth who looked so young. Mu Ningxuang took a step forward and stared at Shang Hui with displeasure. Shang-san, how dare you harm my daughter? Shang Hui said expressionlessly. Mistress, you've already broken the agreement you made with father. Father wanted me to deal with Mu Yu when she held a grudge, but you didn't agree. For the time being, we will give mistress some face. Seeing that she hasn't made any substantial mistakes, we will spare her life. But now, I'm afraid we can't give Mistress such face. If she dares to attack Mistress today, she will be able to kill little sister in the future. How dare you? Mu Ningxuang said coldly. She's my daughter. This is a family matter. It has nothing to do with the Shang clan or Shang Yuan. Mu Ningxuang's eyes flashed coldly at the mention of Shang Yuan. Mistress, I'm sorry. Mu Yu is your daughter. That's your subjective opinion. But Mu Yu is Shang clan's clone 23. That's objective. She was created by my father. In a sense, you're just keeping her for him. Now, I need to retrieve clone 23, Shang Hui said. Shang San, if you want to kill my daughter, you'll have to do it over my dead body. Mu Ningxuang's expression was resolute. Mistress, I think you've misunderstood. I don't dare to fight you, but I believe you know me. I'm afraid there aren't many evolvers in this world who can match my speed. If I want to kill her, I only need an instant. No one here should be able to stop me, Shang Hui said. Mu Ningxuang fell into silence when she heard this. Shang Hui's speed was indeed extraordinarily fast, and he was one of the best amongst Shang Yuan's abnormally strong foster children. Immediately, Mu Ningxuang seemed to have thought of something, and her eyes fell on Xiaoji. The attack power and control power of Xiaoji's spiritual realm were unparalleled. Even if he was fast, it was impossible for him to be faster than a spiritual thought of Xiaoji. Only Xiaoji could stop him. Cripple, can you do me a favor? Mu Ningxuang looked at Xiaoji in a friendly manner. The cripple in the wheelchair, help me out and the Mu family will owe you a huge favor. Mu Feng also spoke up. Xiao Yao. Xiao Zhe looked at Xiaoji's legs, then at Mu Ningxuang and Mu Feng. Could these two talk? With such a low EQ, you still want me to help you? Even if you wanted to help, you wouldn't. No wonder. It could have been easily explained. But the mother and son ended up in such a situation. They deserved it. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Xiaoji refused without hesitation. Xiao Yao and Xiao Zhe looked at Xiaoji at the same time. End of this chapter. Chapter 1526. Xiao Zhe had no choice but to help. He hadn't expected that Big Brother would reject him. That couldn't be. Big Brother shouldn't be that petty. Besides, he was indeed a cripple. This is the Shang family's business. As an outsider, I have no right to interfere. Xiaoji glanced at Mu Yu. Most importantly, the seeds of hatred in Mu Yu's heart have already been planted. I'm afraid it has grown into a towering tree. She is indeed a threat. If it were me, I would do the same thing as Shang San. Thank you for your understanding, but my name is Shang Hui. Shang Hui glanced at Xiaoji. Then I'll kill you first. Mu Feng's sword slashed at Shang Hui. The young men and women of the Mu family reacted swiftly and surrounded Shang Hui. At that moment, Shang Hui's hands were in the pockets of his cartoon pajamas. He landed on Mu Feng's longsword. Without even looking at Mu Feng, his feet pushed off the longsword, and he quickly flew towards Mu Yu. Shang Hui's speed was so fast that it was hard for anyone to react, especially in a short distance. No one could compare to him. Shang Hui held a custom-made dagger in his hand. The cold gleam on the dagger made Lin Yan unable to open her eyes. She wanted to stop the young man, but he was too fast for her to react. Finally, as though her body had reacted instinctively, she turned around and protected Mu Yu. Seeing this, Shang Hui frowned deeply and came to a stop. Mu Feng and the rest of the Mu family were about to rush over when Mu Ningxuang stopped them. Shang Hui was too fast. If he wanted to kill Mu Yu, they wouldn't be able to stop him. However, Mu Yan was different. Shang Hui wouldn't hurt her, especially since Mu Yu was being protected. If they went over now, they would only be adding to the trouble. Fortunately, I can tell who is Mu Yu and who is you, replied Shang Hui. Who are you? Why do you want to kill my sister? Lin Yan hugged Mu Yu as she bellowed. Your sister. Shang Hui glanced at Mu Yu coldly. She is just a tool. Her purpose of existence is to die for you one day. Do you think a tool is your sister? At this moment, Mu Yu's body was trembling. Every word from Shang Hui was like a sharp knife stabbing into her heart. For so many years, she had been unwilling to admit it. She had tried her best to get rid of it. But at this moment, It was like a mountain pressing down on her. She was just a tool that could not be changed no matter what. Shut up. Lin Yin glared at the young man. You're so young, yet you're so mean. She has never been a tool. So what if she is? I like to treat a tool as my sister. What has it got to do with you? Are you too free to do anything? You need to understand one thing. We are a family. If you treat this failure as your sister, she'll kill you, Shang Hui said. You and I are family? Lin Yin was a little confused, but she didn't think too much about it. I don't care who you are or what you do. If you want to kill my sister just like Madam said, you have to step over my dead body. Although she had forgotten everything, perhaps she had obtained a new life. However, forgetting wasn't an excuse. She had created Mountain Sea, and her family had once existed. However, she had failed to protect them. End of this chapter. Chapter 1527. This time, she wanted to protect every single family member, every single person she valued. Even if she didn't have much ability, she could still be a mad dog. She would bite anyone who harmed her family, and she wouldn't care even if she was kicked to death. Mu Yan. Mu Yu gazed at the girl who was hugging her. Her thoughts seemed to have drifted back to the past, filled with laughter and joy. This temperature seemed to be familiar to her. Little sister, get up. Shang Hui hissed coldly. Little girl, hurry up and go to school. I will buy you a lollipop tomorrow. Lin Yin hissed coldly. I'm your third brother. Shang Hui frowned. All right. Don't tell me that you're my brother. As long as you don't be rash and hurt my sister, you can be my father. If you think that you're too young, I can make you my grandfather, replied Lin Yin. Shang Hui was speechless. Although his sister had lost her memory, her character hadn't changed at all. Little sister, I will explain the situation to you later. I can't let you fall into danger because of your soft-heartedness, replied Shang Hui. Even if the danger of the sacred land could be resolved, what would happen to this clone? She controlled her father's experimental technology. As long as she didn't get rid of the hatred in her heart, both Madame Mu and her sister would die in her hands. Madame Mu might be soft-hearted, but she wasn't a saint. She was just a clone. She had been born to help her sister. Since she had developed hatred, it meant that she was a failure. A failure should be destroyed. Before Lin Yin could retort, Shang Hui had vanished from where he stood. In the blink of an eye, Shang Hui had appeared behind Mu Yu. No matter how Lin Yin protected Mu Yu, she couldn't protect her from every angle. She could kill the clone with one blow. Lin Yan's expression changed drastically. Shang Hui was too fast, and her body couldn't react in time. Just as the dagger was about to pierce Mu Yu's neck, a shadow flashed before Lin Yan's eyes. A strong hand grabbed Shang Hui's wrist. The man was wearing a white shirt, and he exuded a cold aura that kept people at arm's length. Lin Yan had met this man more than once. Shang Yu, what's the meaning of this? Shang Hui lifted his head to look at the man with dissatisfaction. Third brother, stop. Shang Yu stared at Shang Hui and said indifferently, what's the difference between doing this and the Holy Land? I know, but this is father's wish, as well as mine and fifth brother's, Shang Hui said. But father doesn't know that madam and my sister value her so much. One treats her like their own daughter, while the other treats her like her real sister. If father knew, I'm afraid he would consider it more. Fine, you're the eldest, so you have the final say. However, when the time comes, you'll have to answer to father yourself. Shang Hui snorted coldly. Shang Yu loosened his grip, and Shang Hui sheathed his dagger. Little sister, I'm fine now. Shang Yu turned around and smiled at Lin Yan. I think we've met more than once. So you're my father's. Lin Yan stared at the man as realization dawned on her. Based on the information she had gathered, her biological father was Shang Yuan, the head of the Shang family. Pei Yuqing had said that Shang Yuan had many adopted sons and daughters. The two men before her had to be two of them. No wonder. Chapter 1528. So this young boy in pajamas was really her brother? Little sister, since boss has spoken, I won't do anything now. However, father still needs to decide her fate. He hates failed creations the most. Even if you want to keep her, I don't think it's possible, Shang Hui told Lin Yan. Father. Lin Yan fell into deep thought. The leader of the Shang family, Shang Yuan, was said to be the most powerful evolved being apart from the sacred land. Lin Yan didn't know much about her father. She couldn't remember anything about him. But she was curious about what kind of person her father was. He was the leader of the most powerful evolved being apart from the sacred land. Where is he? Asked Lin Yan. No one has ever been able to control father's whereabouts. He will appear when he should, replied Shang Hui. Lin Yan was speechless. Shouldn't he appear? Was she really his daughter? She had almost been killed by the guardian of the sacred land. Let's talk about this later. Lin Nua stepped forward and said, my colleagues in the guild have just received news that the evolvers outside the city have basically been suppressed by the power of the Holy Land. The other protector and the holy leader of the Holy Land are already coming here. With our strength, we may not be able to stop them. If the Shang family is willing to intervene, there should be hope. Lin Nua glanced at Shang Yu. You might have some misunderstanding about the sacred land, said Shang Hui. Even 10 members of the Shang family wouldn't be a match for the holy leader, let alone one. Everyone's expressions changed when they heard Shang Hui's words. They naturally knew how powerful the sacred land was. However, the Shang family was the strongest evolved being apart from the sacred land. They should be able to fight. But Shang Hui said that even 10 members of the Shang family wouldn't be able to defeat the sacred land. Is the power of the sacred land that terrifying? Lin Yan asked in disbelief. It's not the power of the sacred land that's terrifying. It's the power of the holy leader. Shang Hui explained. The Holy Lord's level of evolution has reached an unprecedented level. In this world, there is no power that can pose a substantial threat to the Holy Lord. He's practically a god among evolvers. Lin Yan was speechless. Then why should I fight? I should just surrender and beg the holy leader to spare my life. However, there's no need to be discouraged. Father said that he has a way to restrain the holy master, Shang Hui said. Lin Yan's face darkened as she glanced at Shang Hui. Couldn't he finish his sentence in one go? Sister Rain, activate the prison field. Lin Nua's gaze landed on Muyu. The prison field was an evolution space that Rain had created many years ago. It was a place where the Hunters Guild used to imprison evolvers who had committed heinous crimes. Since they were being targeted by the Holy Land, there was no way they could escape. They might as well choose a place that was advantageous to them. Muyu studied Lin Yan intently before she replied. My creations are in the prison. They are quite powerful, so that's my home ground. Every time she thought of the prison, her scalp would turn numb. She really didn't want to go back there. But the current situation, at that moment, Lin Yan thought about Pei Yucheng. She wondered how he had evolved and if he had encountered any danger. However, she couldn't go back to Cloud Manor now. She couldn't bring trouble to them. Actually, if the holy leader really can't win, there's really no need for everyone to take the risk for me. Lin Yan inhaled deeply and glanced at everyone. End of chapter. Chapter 1529. Although she was very touched, she didn't want anyone to get hurt or die because of her. You and Xiaoyu are my daughters. Mu Ningxuang strode forward and gazed at Lin Yan and Muyu. Muyu studied the woman in front of her, feeling conflicted. Judging from their actions, Mu Ningxuang and Mu Yan weren't what she had imagined. If they had merely treated her as a tool, they could have just let Shang Hui deal with her. Why would they go through so much trouble? There was no need or reason for them to put on an act. Perhaps she had really been wrong. However, although she wanted to talk to Mu Ningxuang, she couldn't bring herself to do so. If you die, I won't be able to live for long. Xiao Ji glanced at Lin Yan. Don't forget our agreement. If we survive this time, help me evolve. At the very least, restore my legs. I really can't remember our agreement. But if I really survive, I will find a way to keep my promise. Lin Yan walked to Xiaoji and extended her hand. Xiaoji glanced at Lin Yan's hand and was at a loss for words. What do you mean? Asked Xiaoji. In the past, we were family and comrades who fought side by side. In the future, we will still be. Lin Yan smiled. Is that so? Xiaoji gazed at Lin Yan and shook her hand. I will acknowledge you for now. Pei Qian and Pei Li strode behind Lin Yan, glaring at her. How dare he hold his mother's hand? Let's go. We won't make it in time, Lin Nua urged. Lin Yan wanted to send Pei Yuqing a message, but she decided against it. She would let him break through and evolve in peace. Half an hour later, everyone arrived at the prison. Lin Yan surveyed her surroundings, looking puzzled. This prison was very different from the last time she had been here. It had been a deserted desert, but this time, there were green mountains and clear waters. Muyu, who seemed to sense Lin Yan's confusion, said, that was a disguise. What kind of high-tech technology is this? Lin Yan was astonished. It's a combination of evolutionary power and experimental methods, explained Muyu. Lin Yan gave Muyu a thumbs up. Impressive. You are indeed my sister. Muyu blushed and did not say anything. The entrance here is very well hidden. The Holy Land will need some time to break through. Come everyone, think of a countermeasure. Let's see how we can kill that Holy Lord. Mu Feng squatted down and washed his hands by the stream. During this period of time, Shang Hui and I will be responsible for little sister's safety until father arrives. Shang Yu said, there's no need to think about how to defeat the Saint Lord of a sacred ground. You only need to think about how to survive. Shang Yi, your words are really cruel. Mu Ningxuang looked at Shang Yu. Mistress, it takes courage to face the truth, no matter how cruel it is, Shang Yu said. Lin Yan was about to retort when she felt someone poking her waist. She turned around and saw Muyu. Do you want to rest in the room? Muyu asked softly. Lin Yan was speechless. It sounded strange for Muyu to say that. Room. Lin Yan scanned her surroundings. There was a mountain in the distance, and there was a river nearby. There was no house. A second later, Lin Yan was dumbfounded. A manor that was even bigger than Cloud Manor appeared in front of them. I just said that this is my home ground. I can use my mental strength to change the shape of this place. This is the real appearance of this place, said Muyu. Lin Yan was speechless. She couldn't understand. End of this chapter. Chapter 1530. Muyu, Lin Yan, and Mu Ningxuang were in the same room. Before long, Pei Qian and Pei Li ran in. Lin Yan wanted to get to the bottom of this, even though it seemed unbelievable. She wanted to ask about the high-tech technology that had transformed the prison, but Muyu's expression changed. What's wrong? When Mu Ningxuang saw that Muyu's expression wasn't right, she sat beside Muyu and asked softly, my perfect test subject has begun to move. Muyu's expression was solemn. What do you mean? Lin Yan was puzzled. On the surface, this is a prison used by the Hunters Guild to imprison criminals. In fact, this is the base camp of my laboratory. There are many mindless evolved clones that I created here. Once a powerful evolved being invades, these mindless evolved beings will take action, Muyu explained. I understand. You mean that you also control Shang Yuan's experimental technology? Mu Ningxuang replied softly. Muyu replied, I mean this place has been invaded, and the holy leader of the sacred land has come personally. Lin Yan was speechless. The holy leader had come too quickly. Could he spare her life? Mu Ningxuang's expression was solemn. She had thought that this place was very well hidden, and even the holy leader of the sacred land wouldn't be able to find it so quickly. She had indeed underestimated the holy leader. It's okay. Pei Li stepped forward and glanced at Lin Yan. I'll go meet the holy leader of the sacred land. Lin Yan hugged Pei Qian. Pei Li was at a loss for a moment in Lin Yan's arms. Then he blushed shyly. It's too dangerous. You can't go out. Lin Yan glanced at Pei Li softly. No matter how powerful this child was, even if he really had an immortal body, in her eyes, he was still just a child. Besides, if she really went, she would be sending herself to her death. Although you can't be killed, you can't be a match for the holy leader. Besides, there is a guardian whose mind has evolved to the peak. What will you do if you encounter that guardian? Pei Qian asked. Even if he couldn't be killed, he would only be asking for trouble. What's the situation now? Mu Ningxuang asked Mu Yu. Mu Yu fell silent for a moment before replying. The situation isn't good. There are about 20 mindless evolved beings that I created. I think they have all been wiped out. What's a mindless evolved being? Asked Lin Yan. An evolver without a mind can be understood as a battle tool that possesses the power of an evolver. They do not have any thoughts or emotions, and are only under my control. Mu Yu said. Lin Yan looked pensive. Just like, see Bai. Mu Yu shook her head. It's completely different. One is a normal human who has been greatly enhanced and evolved through experiments, while the other is a pure fighting tool. Strictly speaking, they are not human. You can think of it as robot? Asked Lin Yan. Alright, you can understand it that way, but this isn't the time to talk about it. Aren't you afraid? Mu Yu asked. Lin Yan shook her head. What's the point of being afraid? Are you afraid? I'm so scared. Mu Yu said. Lin Yan was speechless. However, this is my home ground. Even if the holy leader of the Holy Land personally comes. Before Mu Yu could finish, Lin Yan blurted out excitedly. You have a way to defeat him. Hearing that, Mu Yu said. I have a way to prevent them from finding us so quickly. End of chapter. Chapter 1531. Lin Yan stared at Mu Yu in silence. Mu Ningxuang said, Little Yu, I understand what you mean. This is your territory, so we can die slower. Okay. Mu Yu nodded. Lin Yan was speechless. Mu Yu did have some trump cards, but those perfect evolvers were humans with flesh and blood, and she could not bring herself to send them to their deaths. However, the evolvers that were created from Wang Jingyang's unique genes could be used without any qualms. Shang Yuan, what way do you have to restrain the Holy Lord? Mu Ningxuang muttered worriedly. It had been so long, but Shang Yuan still hadn't appeared. Did he really not care about his daughter? After a while, Mu Yu called everyone to the main hall and told them about the situation. Let's see if we can think of a way to kill the Holy Lord, suggested Mu Feng. Impossible, replied Shang Hui. Mu Feng replied, then we'll kill the other guardian. Everyone was speechless. Sister Yan, I have a suggestion. Xing Chen stepped forward. Go ahead. Lin Yan nodded. Since we can't beat him, let's stall for time, said Xing Chen. He believed that Brother Yu would definitely break through. Besides, he had already asked Ling Yu to inform Heaven Pardon. He believed that they would arrive soon. Stall for time? Lin Yan stared at Xing Chen speechlessly. Haven't we been stalling for time? I will try my best, but I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on for long. Mu Yu whispered. The Holy Lord has a peak evolved being with him. It will be too easy for him to track us down. Sister, can you change the terrain here so that we can keep moving? Asked Lin Yan. Mu Yu glanced at Lin Yan in surprise. I don't have that ability yet. Xiao Ji, who had been silent all this while, said. Mu Yu, how long can you stall for? I'm afraid only a few hours at most. This is assuming that I sacrifice many mindless evolved beings. Otherwise, I won't be able to last more than 15 minutes. Can the Shang clan leader arrive in a few hours? Xiao Ji asked Shang Yu. Shang Yu did not answer, and fell into silence. It was obvious that even Shang Yu, the adopted son, did not know Shang Yuan's whereabouts, nor did he know when Shang Yuan would arrive. Perhaps it would be very fast, perhaps it would be very slow. He could not be sure how fast or slow he would arrive. I'm afraid that father will need some time. Moreover, father only said that he knows a way to deal with the holy master of a holy land. However, I'm not sure if it will be effective, said Shang Hui. Understood. After Xiao Ji finished speaking, he fell into silence again. No one knew what he was thinking. I didn't expect the mindless evolver cultivated by Muyang's cells to be so powerful. After a while, Mu Yu murmured. The last time she obtained Mu Yang's cells, she began to study them. Unfortunately, the time was too short, and the combat machines she created could only learn Mu Yang's second form. However, this was enough to slow down the Holy Lord and the Guardian. If she was given more time to study and cultivate, once she could adapt to Mu Yang's third form. Once Mu Yang's third form was released, his power would increase by hundreds of times in a short period of time. But the price he had to pay was death. Humans would die. But she didn't care about those combat machines. She could keep creating them. However, she didn't have time to think about that now. The Holy Lord had stopped all the combat machines, and the Guardian was rushing over. Chapter 1532. The Holy Lord is temporarily held back, but I'm afraid the Guardian with the spiritual domain will arrive soon, said Mu Yu. Mu Feng's eyes lit up when he heard Mu Yu. Although I have always been open and above board, I disdain bullying others with numbers. Mu Feng scanned everyone. However, special circumstances require special treatment. I suggest that we take advantage of the time when the Holy Lord is being held back to beat the Guardian to death. Who objects? Who agrees? I agree, a member of the Mu family said. I raise both hands in agreement, replied Lin Yan. I object. Shang Hui glanced at everyone. What do you think the Guardian is? He's a peak evolved being with a spiritual domain. As long as we give him enough distance, we can be killed with just a glance. Everyone understood what Shang Hui meant. However, no matter how strong an evolved being with a spiritual domain was, their bodies were very fragile. As long as a high-level evolved being approached, most of them could be killed in one blow. You're too cautious, said Mu Feng. It's a matter of life and death. I don't think there's anything wrong with being cautious. A top-evolved being with a spiritual domain doesn't care about the number of enemies. Let me try. Shang Hui's expression was solemn. In terms of speed, not many evolved beings could compare to him. As long as he could grasp the opportunity, he could indeed kill the Guardian with a single blow. Shang Hui had just finished speaking when he suddenly felt the world spin. Besides Shang Hui, everyone except Xiao Ji felt the same way. A second later, a powerful mental wave emanated from Xiao Ji's body and protected everyone. With Xiao Ji's mental intervention, everyone's eyes regained their clarity. What's going on? Lin Yan's face was pale, and her heart was pounding. She had felt as though she had fallen into a bottomless abyss. It was a fear she had never felt before. Thank you. Shang Yu glanced at Xiao Ji and thanked him. This Guardian is more troublesome than I thought, Xiao Ji said after pondering for a moment. He was able to launch an accurate mental attack from such a distance. Is there such an evolved being in this world? Shang Hui asked with lingering fear in his voice. If Xiao Ji hadn't attacked, or if they didn't have an evolved being with a spiritual domain like Xiao Ji, everyone would have died. How could he be so naive as to think of assassinating the Guardian? Stay in the room. There's no need to come out. Xiao Ji walked out of the room. Big brother, kill him. Xiao Yao said. A Guardian who has reached the peak of the spiritual domain should be very interesting. Xiao Ji smiled faintly. Big brother, do you want me to accompany you? Xiao Ji asked. Will you be a burden? Xiao Ji asked. Xiao Zhe. Too ruthless. Xiao Zhe was speechless. Suddenly, Bai He frowned and asked. Do you know Guardian Yin? Suddenly, Xiao Xiaoling Bai master of the Yun Yin. Bai He was a disciple of the Holy Land, so he should have some understanding of the Holy Land's protectors. Even Xiao Ji did not dare to underestimate an opponent of this level. It was best to know oneself and the enemy. Protector Yun is the new protector of the Holy Land. Although he is still young, the evolution of his spiritual domain has already reached the limit. In fact, I don't know him very well. Protector Yun doesn't live in the Holy Land and only returns for missions. But this isn't the main point. The main point is that I know his weakness. Bai He vowed. Li Lin said. Ling. Bai He gritted his teeth and finally made up his mind. I'm not betraying the Holy Land. I just like to tell the truth. You're the best. Lin Yin nodded repeatedly. Other than being a guardian of the Yun is an ordinary person. I know that he needs money. Chapter 1533. Protector Yin is very short of money. He seems to have a hobby that costs a lot of money. Protector Yin will even accept some missions that the disciples of the Holy Land are unwilling to do, just for the reward and reward. Bai He said. Is it a man or a woman? Asked Mufeng. It's a man, replied Bai He. I understand now. Not only is he short of money, but he's also single and doesn't have a girlfriend. Mufeng glanced at Bai He. Yes, yes, yes. That's true. Bai He nodded furiously. So give him money, help him find a girlfriend, and bribe him to turn against us. Actually, it's not that troublesome. Otherwise, we could just bribe the holy leader of the sacred ground. Mufeng pondered seriously. Bribe the holy leader? Is that possible? Bai He asked in surprise. Mufeng stared at Bai He. You also know that it's impossible. The holy leader can't be bribed. But how can a guardian be bribed? If a guardian could be bribed so easily, they wouldn't have to be like this. Besides, even if they could be bribed, they couldn't be bribed with money. Not giving others a chance to continue speaking, Xiao Ji made a shushing gesture. He's here. Xiao Ji closed his eyes and sensed for a moment. Did you say that Guardian Yin is here? Muyu asked with a frown. Yeah. Xiao Ji nodded. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. Was the guardian of the sacred ground stupid? Or was he blindly arrogant? Even though the evolution of his spiritual domain had reached its peak, his body was still very fragile. Any high-level evolver could kill him if they were to get close to him. Once Protector Yin showed up, Xiao Ji would be able to pin him down, and Shang Yu, Shang Hui, or even Pei Qian and Pei Li could kill him. That's not normal, said Muyu. He must have some tricks up his sleeve. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to come here alone. After Muyu finished speaking, Xiao Ji opened the door and pushed the wheelchair out. In the next second, two powerful mental powers spread out in the void. Xiao Ji was like a statue as he sat motionlessly in the wheelchair. Impressive, Muyu murmured to herself as she sensed the fluctuations of the mental powers. Impressive? Lin Yin glanced at the statue outside in confusion. Then she studied Muyu. What is he doing? Lin Yin asked curiously. He's fighting with Protector Yin from the sacred grounds. Both of them are top-notch evolvers. You might not understand how they fight, but it's a clash of mental energy. Muyu said. Lin Yin was astonished. I've never seen such a way of fighting. After a while, a trace of blood spilled from the corner of Xiao Ji's mouth. Seeing this, Xing Chun was a little anxious. We can't go on like this. We can't intervene in the spiritual battle. I don't know whether Xiao Ji is a match for that protector. Lin Yin shuddered when she saw the blood at the corner of Xiao Ji's mouth. Was this a battle between top evolvers? It was completely different from her understanding of battles. There was no need for physical contact, and there was no need for them to look at each other face to face. Although Lin Yin didn't know much, she was sure that the battle had been extremely dangerous. It was just that they couldn't see it. This is a good opportunity. Little Yu, can you sense Protector Yun's position? Mufeng looked at Muyu. End of chapter. Chapter 1534. No, he has shielded his spiritual domain. I can't sense where he is, replied Muyu. I'll go look for him. If I find him, I can kill him in 0.1 seconds, said Mufeng. Don't go. Muyu pulled Mufeng back and frowned. His spiritual evolved level is too high. You must have a backup plan since he is so close to us. It will be very dangerous if we approach him now. Although Muyu wasn't a combat-type spiritual evolved being, she was still a spiritual evolved being, and had a certain understanding of the spiritual domain. For a spiritual evolver like Xiao Ji, as long as he was on guard, if you dared to approach him rashly, you would most likely die before you could even get close to him. Why? Are you worried about me? Mufeng glanced at Muyu. Muyu let go of him. I won't stop you if you want to die. Mufeng wanted to say something, but Xiao Ji opened his eyes. Big brother, how do you feel? Xiao Yao walked over to Xiao Ji. Yeah, he's a great opponent. He should be injured too, replied Xiao Ji. This was the first time Xiao Yao had seen Xiao Ji bleed, especially in a spiritual battle. He had never seen anyone more terrifying than Xiao Ji. However, the other party was a guardian of the sacred land. Xiao Ji said, however, something very interesting happened when we were fighting just now. As soon as Xiao Ji's voice fell, everyone came over. Xiao Ji, you're bleeding. How do you feel? Are you injured? Lin Yan frowned when she saw the blood at the corner of Xiao Ji's mouth. It's fine, replied Xiao Ji. Lin Yan was relieved when Xiao Ji said that he was fine. You have to take care of yourself. Among these people, only you and little you are evolvers with mental abilities. She is trash. If you fall, we can surrender. Mu Feng looked at Xiao Ji and said, ignore him. Lin Yan glanced at Xiao Ji. You said something interesting happened just now. What is it? Guardian Yin must have used his spiritual perception to steal what he said just now. He said that he lives in the outside world, and is indeed short of money. If we are sincere, we can talk, said Xiao Ji. Upon hearing that, everyone, including Xiao Yao and Xiao Zhe, froze on the spot. This information was too unbelievable. The protectors of the Holy Land could actually be bribed? What's more, he had to take the initiative to negotiate with them. How is this possible? How could this be? I'm done for. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Mom, what do you think? Mu Feng asked Mu Ningxuang. I don't think it's believable. I don't know if there's some kind of conspiracy. If the protectors of the Holy Land can be bribed, it probably won't be us, Mu Ningxuang said. Did he mention the price? Lin Yan gritted her teeth. No, but if he's telling the truth, the price may be an astronomical figure, Xiao Ji said with a smile. Ask him to kill me then. I don't have money, but I can take my life. Lin Yan looked determined. She had no money. Xiao Ji ignored Lin Yan and turned to Xiao Zhe. How is it? Xiao Zhe. Big brother, money is not a problem. I can pay for it, but this is not credible at all. Xiao Zhe sighed. I'm afraid money isn't his motive. He probably wants to meet us, but he's afraid that we will suddenly attack him, so he found an excuse. After all, he will be in a passive position if he approaches us without warning, said Xiao Ji. End of this chapter. Chapter 1535. If that's the case, let him come and pretend to agree to the negotiation. As long as he appears, we'll catch him off guard. Ling Yu pondered this for a moment before speaking. No need. Let's see what he's up to, replied Xiao Ji. After some time, an ethereal voice rang in Lin Yan's mind. Come out for a while. Lin Yan stood up immediately and surveyed her surroundings. Master, is that you? If it is, come out. If it isn't, I won't show mercy. The voice rang in her mind again. Lin Yan was taken aback. This voice should be communicating mentally, so she couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. It was just a form of mental communication. Who are you? Lin Yan asked in surprise. However, no one answered. Lin Yan suddenly recalled that she wasn't a spiritual evolved being. She could only hear and couldn't transmit. I'm the guardian of the sacred land. If you are my master, Lin Yan, please open the door and come out. Let me see you. Otherwise, I will carry out the mission and not show mercy. The voice rang in Lin Yan's mind again. This time, Lin Yan was startled. The guardian of the sacred land had called her master? Then who exactly was he? Could his words be trusted? Could it be a trap for him to get out of here? Xiao Ji. Lin Yan hurriedly glanced at Xiao Ji and told him what the voice in her mind had said. Really? Xiao Ji pondered this for a moment before replying. It's all right. Do as he says. I will watch you. If he does anything, I will be faster than him. Lin Yan felt much more at ease with Xiao Ji's protection. At that moment, Lin Yan was a little confused. Who was that guardian? He only had a few disciples. Other than Xiao Yao, none of them were evolved beings, let alone the guardian of the sacred land. Lin Yan opened the door and walked out. However, Lin Yin didn't see anyone. She only felt that an invisible eye was staring at her. After some time, a young man walked over slowly from afar. Lin Yin was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth when she saw him. Lin Yin was too familiar with this young man. He was her last disciple. Yin Xian. Lin Yin exclaimed. Guardian Yin of the sacred ground was actually Yin Xian. No wonder Bai He said that Guardian Yin had a hobby that was very expensive. How could racing not be expensive? Lin Yin turned to walk to Yin Xian. Before she could take 2 steps, Xiao Ji instructed Xiao Yao to stop her. Xiao Ji, that person is really my disciple. His name is Yin Xian. Lin Yin replied hastily. Regardless of whether he is your disciple or not, you need to confirm it first. Even if he really is your disciple, it is hard to say in front of such a thing, said Xiao Yao. Yin Xian walked halfway before he stopped as well. I need to clarify something, and I also need to confirm something. I need to clarify that I will not attack my master, and I also need to confirm that all the evolved beings here will not attack me. Yin Xian seemed very cautious. Indeed, if an evolver with a spiritual domain like him were to get close to an evolver like Shang Hui, he would die on the spot if he was not careful. Therefore, when he didn't know how to deal with an evolved human, he needed to keep a distance. Are you sure you won't interfere? Mu Yu asked. I'm certain. Otherwise I wouldn't have appeared here. Yin Xian replied. End of chapter. Chapter 1536. Everyone listen to me. Lin Yin said. I believe Yin Xian. He's my disciple. Just like he said, if he really intends to attack, he won't put himself in danger. Even if he can't break through Xiao Ji, he just needs to wait for the holy leader to come. Xiao Ji, what do you think? Yeah, that makes sense. Xiao Ji nodded. Little sister, don't go over, Shang Hui said softly. Xiao Ji, cooperate with me. I'm confident that I can kill him at this distance. Are you sure? I don't mind, said Xiao Ji. Don't attack. Lin Yin frowned. Yin Xian is very sincere. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken such a huge risk to confirm my identity, knowing that I have powerful evolved beings like you by my side. That's true, but it's impossible to be risk-free, said Shang Hui. If that's the case, everything is risky. There's a risk of choking to death when eating, drinking water, and even if you don't do anything, there's a risk of sudden death, said Lin Yin. Shang Hui was speechless. I think you're worrying too much. Besides, with me around, he won't be able to hurt Lin Yin, said Xiao Ji. Shang Hui replied. Since all of you think so, I will respect your decision. However, you'd better be careful. Lin Yin strode toward Yin Xian. Soon their gazes met, and they were inches apart. Master, I didn't expect it to be you. Yin Xian stared at Lin Yin and sighed helplessly. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable? Lin Yin quipped. I find it unbelievable that you're guardian yin of the sacred land. When did you become a guardian? You've been hiding your abilities. It happened a long time ago, but I've always been living outside and rarely go to the sacred land. Bai He should have told you, replied Yin Xian. Bai He said that you lack money. Lin Yin grinned. Yin Xian fell silent for a moment before replying. Yeah, the engine is expensive. Lin Yin was speechless. Let's get back to business. What do you plan to do? Asked Lin Yin. If it weren't for you, I would have followed the mission's instructions. However, I won't do anything now, replied Yin Xian. I didn't dote on you for nothing. Lin Yin grinned. But even if I don't do anything, I really don't know how to stop the sacred master. Yin Xian's eyes were filled with worry. The divine master has a good heart, but he is a little stubborn, especially when it comes to the matter of master. He has practically gone crazy. Yin Xian, can you? Lin Yin glanced at Yin Xian, hoping that he would join them. However, their positions were different. The fact that Yin Xian did not make a move already showed how much he valued his master. If Yin Xian were to change his position, she would not be able to say it. Good disciple, come over and help us deal with the Holy Land. Unbeknownst to him, Mu Feng had walked up to him. Lin Yin glanced at Mu Feng in confusion. He's my disciple. Hearing this, Mufeng sternly said, "What do you mean by your disciple is my disciple?" "You are my little sister, so isn't your disciple my disciple?" Lin Yan was speechless. How could he say something like that with a straight face? "I can't do anything, but I will do my best to help Master. However, against the Divine Master." Yun Xian had a troubled expression on his face. "Why? What's your relationship with the Divine Master?" Mu Feng replied, "He's the Divine Master and you're a guardian. That's a superior and subordinate relationship. What's your relationship with my sister? She's your master, and you're her disciple. That's a family relationship. Tell me which is more important, family or leader. Say something. You can't tell me, right?" Yun Xian was speechless. Lin Yan was speechless. "Remember, your family will always come first," Mu Feng added. End of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.